Coming to you live from our studio at Adesawe Kanda here in Accra, also live on our numerous affiliates across the country, around the world. We're streaming live on 3news.com. Download the TuneIn app from the Google Play or Apple iOS store. Listen to us on the go. Coming up this afternoon, court dismisses Jachi Kweson's application to halt daily trial pending appeal at Court of Appeal. The lawyers are to file same motion at the Court of Appeal. The minority, meanwhile, have boycotted sitting of the House, an action described by the majority leader Oseiche Mensah Bonsu as unfortunate.
I think it's an unfortunate decision.
Also this afternoon, a new survey by Global Info Analytics has revealed Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia has taken a 3 percentage point lead among all voters to lead the New Patriotic Party for the 2024 general elections. And Ghana on high alert following reported outbreak of bird flu in neighboring Togo, and Day one of the reopening of the redeveloped Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park records appreciable level of patronage. We get details of all of these and more if you stay with us for the next 30 minutes. A pleasure that you could be a part of this afternoon's bulletin. It's streaming live on Facebook. Our handles 3FM927. Same handles on Twitter as well, 3FM927. I am Eric Mawuena Egbeta. We're taking you to the court first off, where amongst many other things, the High Court has dismissed James Jachi Kweson's application to halt a daily trial pending an appeal at the Court of Appeal. And the indication we get is that lawyers of Mr. Kweson are to file the same motion at the Court of Appeal. Lord Edward Sare is my colleague in court. He'll join us shortly with a bit more details for us as to exactly what's happening from the courts. But in relation to this, the minority in Parliament, they serve notice that they will boycott sitting at any point in time that any of their colleagues appears in court, and they are exacting on that threat as they refuse to be a part of proceedings in Parliament this morning, resulting in the House having to suspend sitting amongst many things. And we'll take it to Parliament as well pretty shortly. But the majority leader, Oseiche Mensah Bonsu, he has been responding to the concerns of the minority and their subsequent action, describing them as unfortunate. And amongst many things, he says that the majority side with 138 members can take decisions without the minority, but adds that it is not the best way and that he intends to engage the minority leader to rescind their decision. He's been speaking to my colleague Evelyn Tingma.
I think it's an unfortunate decision, but I mean, we are all humans. Sometimes something happens and on the spur of the moment you may take a decision. Maybe after a while you may want to reconsider the decision that you yourself have taken. It is best if decisions in Parliament are taken by consensus involving all sides of the House. I intend to engage my colleague and compatriot, the minority leader, on that. But if they insist that they wouldn't attend to the business of Parliament, what else can you do? You only then have to mobilize your numbers to attend to the business of the House. We can take decisions in their absence. If you have 138, you can take any decision that you want. When it came to approving the budget, which they say they had rejected, we got everybody here. We had 138 and took the decision. Remember, we didn't even move a motion of rescission against the purported decision that they said they had taken, because their number was not up to 1/2 of the total membership in the House, right? They couldn't have taken any decision on behalf of Parliament. We had the 1/2 and we took the decision. You don't want us to be reclining to those positions. I hope I'll be able to talk to my colleague and I will move from there and then continue the dialogue that we have been having. We may not agree on everything, but we still should remain one house.
So that's the majority leader, Osei Mensah-Boone. So obviously describing as unfortunate the decision by his minority counterparts not to be a part of sitting, and that has affected the business of the house. If you go on to our various social media handles as well, the videos will be put out there where the chamber of the floor of Parliament is empty because there's no member of the minority side currently present in the Legislative House. And Komla Kluche, like I mentioned, is our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, who joined us on the telephone line with a bit more detail as to exactly what it is, what was on the order paper, and what does this mean with just 4 weeks for the House expecting to rise. We'll get all the details as and when he joins us, and also the reasoning of the court as to why they've thrown out the appeal by James Jechi Kwesen. But we're moving away from this and doing politics now, because the cost of elections in Ghana continues to spiral upwards as voter inducement and accompanying illegalities associated with elections fast becoming on. But with the country's democracy expected to provide an equal opportunity for all, where does the country draw the line? There's more in this News Desk report.
Every NDC, every party for floor.
Thank you. So, Scan, what did you do?
Scan magic.
Oh, I was saying. Fetch me.
I'm 200 CDs.
Yes. Yes.
Magic.
Yes. That's it.
I'm a fan of them.
Yes.
The almost visual representation of party politics in recent times in Ghana, despite being one of the biggest hurdles of Ghana's budding democracy, monetization appears to be fast becoming a norm present in the daily politicking of the country. A 2022 survey by the Center for Democratic Development Ghana revealed that presidential aspirants spend up to $100 million in costs for their participation, a cedi equivalent of 1.1 billion cedis, while would-be MPs cough up at least $693,000 for their positions, also equivalent of some 7.8 million cedis. From the former president to now NDC flag bearers, 40 cedis to the over 200,000 delegates of the NDC as transportation during the party's presidential primary, to open voter inducement witnessed at the Asin North by-election, the cost of election is rising. Perhaps indicative of that cost is the recent audio clipping suggesting that government spent 600,000 cedis at 4 polling stations at the Asin North by-elections, but still lost the polls.
Me can catch them say, "Yenye polling station, 4 polling stations are na ye wo, and 24 mayeti asese. Sika eba honum, eye 600,000 Ghana cedis, 6 billion."
Though yet to be substantiated, these associated costs have left Director of Advocacy and Policy Engagement at CDD Ghana, Dr. Kojo Asante Pumpuni, worried.
I think it's a political culture that has become part of the Fourth Republic, and it's getting worse, because the simple fact is that the more people have to spend money on vote buying and other kinds of inducement, it increases the cost of election. And if that's going to be the case, then, very soon it will be sold to the highest bidder.
For the delegates, this is money rightfully deserved.
We, the police station authorities, at least, if not at all, at least 200 Ghana cedis, I think it will be okay.
No, we about 200, we about 300, 400. That's how my 100.
We are not interested in the messages. Others gave us 200 and 300 Ghana cedis. So the 100 Ghana cedis is too small.
The concern continues unabated for many watchers of democracy as the defense from political parties continue pouring in. And that was a News Desk report. Let's take you to Parliament now, where Komla Kluche, Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, has joined us with a bit more details on that boycott by the minority. Komla, what business was expected to be carried out on the floor today, now that we know that the minority are not present and hence the House has suspended sitting?
Two ministers of state that's the Gender and Social Protection Minister, and the Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs Minister would build to respond to 8 questions being asked by mostly minority MPs. So 7 of them coming from the minority MPs and 1 coming from the majority side. Well, all the minority MPs are not in the House, and so the ministers came here in their numbers, and the 2 ministers of state came in, but those who asked the question were not available. And so the majority leader is calling for some serious conversation on how this boycott is going to be affecting the House. The fact that the ministers who the questions are asked to will come to the House, but the minority MPs are not available to ask the questions. There's also the talk about taking of committee reports and working on the bill. For instance, the narcotics control bill. If that particular one is being led by the Defense and Interior Committee, said by Kennedy Ohene Ajipon. Kennedy Ajipon is on the campaign trail. He is not here. And so that particular report was also not taken. It does appear that with the trend that this boycott is taking, it's actually going to be affecting the House very well, because in just 3 weeks, the House will be going on recess. And that's all of these businesses the House has not been able to take that. So, I mean, it's really going to be having a toll, because it does appear that when the Speaker suspended the House, the majority leader was left with no other option, because which item are you going to call? If you mention the item, the people are not available. When it comes to the consideration of bills and all that, mostly you'll find it being led by Roxanne Dapia Mekbo, and then the Akachi North MP, Bernard Ahiafo. All these people are not in the House, and so it's beginning to have a big toll on the workings of the House.
Right then, Komla, many thanks. That's Komla Kluche, is a parliamentary affairs correspondent, just running us through the business of the House that has been affected by the minorities boycott. And we're moving away from this. We return to politics a while later, and government has averted a protest by individual bondholders following the settlement of all outstanding arrears to members of the Individual Bondholders Forum. The coalition of individual bondholders group had scheduled to begin a series of picketing at the Finance Ministry from today to register their displeasure over the government's failure to honor numerous pledges to settle all their matured coupons on government bond, as well as demand payment of same. But the Finance Ministry on Monday night issued a statement announcing that all coupons and principals due up to the June 19 had been paid. Let's speak to Joe Jackson. He's an investment analyst for a bit more on this. Mr. Jackson, many thanks for speaking to us this afternoon. Would you describe it as timely, that announcement by government that they've paid off up to June 19, and also your thoughts on the threats, if we can call it that from these bondholders, that should government not honor the promise, then they'll be returning?
Okay, first of all, it is good news. It is good news. It is bad for this country that in spite of all the negotiations that have gone on with the domestic debt exchange program, there's still outstanding payments. The best thing that could happen in this country is that we quickly conclude all the outstanding negotiations, not just with the pension bondholders, with the individual bondholders, but with pension funds, with the cocoa bondholders, etc., and bring this current episode to an end. We've gone to the IMF. We've got to deal with them. We've got to tie up the loose ends, dot the I's, cross the T's, all the outstanding agreements, get them so that we can move into the next stage of stabilization and recovery. For so long as all these things have not been done, for so long as people are not being paid, we are in a state of limbo and waiting. So I really welcome the fact that the the government has paid. And as to the return to picketing, if there's any delay or the government does not honor it, that's the right of the individual bondholders.
Right.
Nobody can take that right away from them. What we pray is that it will not happen. It's not good for the country. It's not good for our economy. It's not good for the the individual bondholders. So let's just hope that our finances are in better order in the days ahead, and we can fulfill all commitments we make.
Right, but it does appear that, unfortunately, picketing is the only language left for these bondholders to get government attention.
It is a most unfortunate impression that has been created, that unless you get up and go and picket, you don't get a result from this government. That is a very sad situation. But we're hoping that it is a sign of the desperate situation that we have been in, that moving forward, it will not be so.
Right then, Mr. Jackson, I appreciate that you could speak to us.
Thank you too.
That's Joe Jackson. He is an investment analyst speaking to us this afternoon on the very latest in terms of payment and averting of the intended picketed by the bondholders, individual bondholders forum. And we'll move away from this. I mentioned that we'll return to politics a lot later. We will do that, but you're listening to the news here on 3FM 92.7. We're streaming live on Facebook. Our handles 3FM 927 as well. And Ghana is on high alert following the outbreak of the highly pathogenic H5N1 bird flu virus in neighboring Togo. According to the World Health Organization for Animal Health, the reported outbreak occurred on a farm near the capital, Lome. A statement issued by the Volta Regional Health Directorate notified all stakeholders of the outbreak, reported to have killed about 1,450 of a flock of 1,500 birds, with the remaining being killed. At least, or the direction is that all districts, particularly those bordering the Republic of Togo, health facilities and port health units have been directed to heighten their surveillance activities for the disease. Dr. Benjamin Kisi-Sasu is in charge of risk communication at the Ghana Veterinary Service. Let's just get brief updates. It is neighboring Togo, but it won't cost much. Dr. Sasu, many thanks for speaking to us. So what's the plan like? Heightened surveillance of activities. What more are you doing to ensure that this doesn't get here?
Great. So thank you very much for this opportunity. So 3 major things. Good that I've gotten an alert early for neighboring countries, which is always expected from all the countries around the world by the World Health Organization, which was formerly OIE, which regulates animal health issues in the world. So we have been given an alert. Ghana Health Service has also been informed. They have also alerted their various health centers, especially in the Volta region, with the case definition. So in case humans report, because bird flu is zoonotic, it affects humans too. The veterinary service have already informed their staff, both at the borders in the various districts, and they have also started discussions with the farmers to draw their attention. Already last year, we were having bird flu, which affected some farms in Volta already. So there are some educational materials which you have asked the Volta region. Other this afternoon, my director confirmed that yes, they have some of the posters around. So they also put advantage points in the region for those who have forgotten information about bird flu, the signs and symptoms, so that they get to know. What we need is the public to help us, especially those in Volta region, because of the border, in case people use unapproved route to get certain animal products, especially poultry, into the country. All this needs check. Once the country has a bird flu, import and export of poultry products, there will be restriction on that. So as has happened at the border, the customs and the veterinary services over there will make sure the right things are done. But with bird flu, we have birds, flying birds, who also play a key role in it, which we use the opportunity to tell various houses that keeps some sort of birds in their houses without hen coop should begin to have them so that they get their birds housed, because these flying birds can just leave their droppings anywhere, and if they are affected, then this can help to spread it into our country. So everybody has been made alert, including the wildlife division.
Right.
All of them are alert, and we are all having our systems in control. Already we have systems for these issues, so all the systems are now be activated, and we are watching out. So the issues in Togo cools down, then we could say we could relax those systems. So
Right,
currently everything is on.
Doc, I appreciate that you could speak to us. That's Dr. Benjamin Kisisa, who is in charge of risk communication at the Ghana Veterinary Services, speaking to us this afternoon. I mentioned a bit more on politics and the latest survey by Global Info Analytics, which has revealed that Vice President Dr. Bawumia has taken a 3 percentage point lead among all voters to lead the New Patriotic Party for the 2024 general elections. Musa Dankwa, he's joined us on the telephone lines. He is the Executive Director of Global Info Analytics. Mr. Dankwa, many thanks for speaking to us. And so provide a bit more context for us. What is given the Vice President this lead?
All right, thank you very much. This is basically realignment of voters, voters who were thinking that somebody else should lead MPP. Once you open up nominations and close, then the public will know who is contesting and who's not contesting. Since the MPP closed the nomination, it's quite clear that we know who are likely going to contest. So those who were thinking of someone else now have to take a stand or have to take a position. And they took positions, and Bawumia got 7% out of the 12%. Alan got 3% of that, and Ken got 2%. So overall, nothing changed dramatically. Just that those who were thinking of voting someone else have to decide between these candidates. So if you realize, nobody dropped votes in terms of the share. They all increased, but Bawumia got a lot more than the others.
Of the votes. There's the third force, Kennedy Ohene Japan, and his potential of pushing all of this into Iranov. What's his vote percentage like, and what appears to be a stronghold that he's beginning to gather?
No, if you look at the numbers among all voters, he got a bit of bump as well by 2%. But the problem for all these candidates is that this particular poll is not delegate poll. So what you are targeting is delegates. But this also is very important in the sense that you must be able to convince voters that, look, you're the right person. And when voters like you or believe in your message, it's likely that kind of belief would permeate its delegates, and delegates will begin to feel the same. So that is why these opinion polls are quite important for the optics in particular. Now, it is the MPP bloc that is where I think the problem, Ken has a problem at the moment, because he has lost some votes from 21% in April to now 15%. It means that within the MPP, his stock is not rising as he used to be before.
Then there's the final bit as to the general elections. The former president John Mahama, who's now the flag bearer of the NDC, up against Dr. Bawumia and Alan Tremantin. How is it looking like? Is it from what I'm seeing, it appears that John Mahama is enjoying some lead against any candidate that can be offered by the governing New Patriotic Party?
I mean, that is the general trend we've seen, that it doesn't matter what MPD presents. John Mahama is still in a huge lead. Against Bawumia, he is on 55% to 37%. Last April, Bawumia was on 38%. So Bawumia has lost 1% this time around. Now, if you compare him to Alan, it was 54% to 40% last time. At the moment, Mahama is still on 54%, but Alan has dropped to 39%. So Mahama is gaining grounds or is expanding his lead, whereas MPP candidates are dropping.
Doc, let's leave it here. I'm sure we'll come back to you in the course of the days and weeks as a lot more data will be coming from your end.
Thank you.
That's Musa Dankwa, is Executive Director of Global Info Analytics. You should follow them on the various social media handles for the latest, even as we continue to provide those details to you with a lot more nuance as to what it all means here on your election command center. But we're staying with politics a while longer because the flag bearer aspirant of the ruling New Patriotic Party, Dr. Usui Akoto, he's been touting his achievements in the agri sector during his tenure as Minister for Food and Agriculture, among some initiatives championed during his tenure, and he's been speaking to the media ahead of his Volta regional tour, and he wants the government to prioritize the welfare of farmers.
I'm glad to see that even having left office for about 6 months, a lot of these initiatives that I took are coming into fruition. Apart from the Tree Crop Development Authority, there are others. For instance, we have the Grains Development Authority lying in Parliament for the last 6 months. I appeal to the Speaker of Parliament through this medium to ensure that that legislation comes through so that we can establish the Grain Development Authority along the same lines as the Tree Crop and the Cocoa Board authorities, and to promote the development and the volume of exports of grains and to reduce our food security to the minimum. In addition to that, there's a very clear case of shortage of agricultural credit. The banks are not lending. At the last count, only 3.1% of total agricultural credit, or total credit in lending by the banks went to agriculture. And
that's Dr. Akoto. He is one of the aspirants of the governing New Patriotic Party's presidential primary, and the result of the vetting committee will be made public shortly, and we'll be getting details for you as and when it does come through. To other matters now, and after making headway in debt settlement talks with independent power producers, the Electricity Company of Ghana is today beginning another round of door-to-door revenue mobilization. The company is hopeful the 2-month exercise will help to preserve its integrity against possible impact on its operations. Leila Abubakar is PRO of the association.
The debt situation of the power distributing company is still at worrying levels. Notable among them is the $1 billion debt it owes to independent power producers who control 50% of the country's energy generation mix. For organizations like the Africa Center for Energy Policy, the company's discretionary spending and poor accounting are to blame. Currently, there are at least 2 million customers using electricity without any consumption history.
This one is going to be based on households knowing who our customers are and trying to, fill that gap that we have in our customer base of people using energy and not paying for it. So essentially what it is if you calculate the number of people who are on our database and are paying and the amount of energy we need to pay back the IPPs and power generators for, it doesn't tally.
That's External Communications Manager of ECG, Leila Abubakar. We just end with the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park, which has seen a reopening today with an appreciable level of patronage. Management say they expect more numbers during the weekend. Now, before the redevelopment, Ghanaian adults were paying 3 cedis and non-Ghanaians 10 cedis. The new charge is 25 cedis for Ghanaian adults and 100 cedis for non-Ghanaian adults. But some students who visited the facility were unable to pay the charge of 15 cedis per head for tertiary students, and so they are calling for attendance to clarify charges to visitors who come around, and there'll be a bit more on that for you if you stay with us here on 3FM 92.7. That's our bulletin for you this afternoon. It came to you live from our studio here at Adesawi Kanda in Accra. As always, a lot more news if you log on to 3news.com. I am Eric Mawuena Egbeta.
Accra, Ghana, Africa, and worldwide. Join us on Inspirational